NASCAR gave every team in the garage the answer. The telemetry is open. The footwell camera footage exists. The technique has been broken down by Dale Earnhardt Jr. on a podcast heard by millions. Every crew chief, every engineer, every driver in the Cup Series knows exactly what Shane Van Gisbergen is doing with that third pedal, and not one of them can copy it. Denny Hamlin says going back is not an option after 2 decades. Kyle Larson, arguably the most naturally gifted driver in the field, says there is zero chance he ever learns it. What NASCAR handed Shane Van Gisbergen by accident when they built the next-generation car may be the most lopsided technical advantage the sport has seen in a generation. If you are a NASCAR fan who wants honest technical breakdowns with no fluff and no bias, subscribe right now, drop a comment below, and hit that like button, because this channel is where the real conversation happens. The first thing you need to understand is what the NASCAR Next Generation car actually gives a driver to work with. The car runs a 5-speed sequential gearbox. Sequential means exactly what it sounds like. You bang it up, you bang it down, and the dog box handles the rest. There is no clutch required to change gears. The clutch pedal exists in the car for 2 specific moments: pulling off pit road and the green flag start. After that, it is a footrest. Every American driver in the Cup field operates on the same 2-pedal system. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, left foot on the brake, right foot on the throttle, clutch pedal completely ignored. Clean, efficient, and modern. That has been the NASCAR way since the next generation car debuted in 2022. Then Shane Van Gisbergen walked into Chicago in 2023. It was a debut race on a street course in pouring rain, and he won it. When the broadcast cut to the footwell camera inside his car, the American paddock collectively stopped breathing, because Shane Van Gisbergen was not left foot braking. He was running a full heel and toe pedal sequence, right foot rolling off the throttle and blipping the gas with the side of his shoe, left foot stabbing the clutch, brake pedal being worked at the same time. It was the classic heel and toe downshift technique, executed in a car that does not need a clutch to shift gears, in a series where nobody had attempted this in 15 years. The garage had never seen anything like it. But here is the thing that most people still get wrong about what they were watching. Everyone assumed Shane Van Gisbergen was using the clutch to make his gear changes smoother. That is not what he was doing. He was using it for something else entirely. Something he built into his muscle memory across years of racing at the most demanding road circuit on the planet, Bathurst. In a V8 supercar, the series Shane Van Gisbergen drove to 3 Bathurst 1000 victories and 3 championships. You are dealing with a locked rear differential. A locked differential means under heavy braking, the rear tires want to skip, hop, and lock up because they are physically tied together. Supercars drivers run an enormous amount of rear brake bias, far more than any NASCAR setup would ever tolerate, because that rear bias is what makes the car rotate into a corner. The mechanical problem that creates is severe. A locked rear axle under heavy braking with that much rear bias will break loose and try to take the car with it. The solution that every serious supercars driver learns is to feather the clutch. You dip it in. You disconnect the engine from the rear wheels for a fraction of a second, right at the apex of the braking zone. The rear stops fighting itself. Then, as you begin to turn in, the clutch comes back out, and the drivetrain reload, the re-engagement of the engine to the axle, actually pulls the nose of the car into the corner. That technique, refined across years at Bathurst, is exactly what Shane Van Gisbergen carried into the NASCAR garage. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Shane Van Gisbergen himself told Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the Dale Jr. Download podcast that in the next generation car, the differential is open. Technically, the specific mechanical problem that made the clutch trick essential in supercars does not exist in the same form in the NASCAR car. He even said, "I don't think it is a big advantage. Of course I'm going to say that, but it's all I've known." Classic Kiwi understatement. But watch the SMT telemetry, the open book data system that every team in the NASCAR garage has access to. He is still doing it, every corner, every lap. The reason is that the micro disconnect of the clutch under braking, that fraction of a second where the engine is not fighting the rear axle, is allowing him to do something that nobody else in the field can replicate. He is protecting his rear tires at a level that the rest of the garage simply cannot match. Dale Earnhardt Jr. broke this down in precise technical terms on his podcast. He explained that Shane Van Gisbergen is right foot braking while simultaneously keeping his foot available to operate the clutch. When he begins to feel the rear tires dragging under engine braking or starting to induce wheel hop as the drivetrain loads the axle during a downshift, he modulates the clutch slightly to dampen the load on the drivetrain. The rear tires stay planted. They stay calm. The transition through the braking zone is smoother than anything a left foot braker can produce in the same car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. put it directly, "This ain't something NASCAR guys do. We don't use the clutch to control wheel hop or any of that." Beyond the braking zone, Shane Van Gisbergen also uses clutch modulation to pitch and rotate the car deeper into the corner, using the drivetrain re-engagement as a mechanical steering tool at the point where other drivers are relying entirely on the brake bias adjustment knob. The downstream effect of all of this shows up not in qualifying pace but in tire condition 30 laps into a run. Connor Zilisch, the 19-year-old rookie at Trackhouse Racing, who has been Shane Van Gisbergen's closest and most consistent threat on road courses, described it with perfect clarity. You never see him slipping tires. There's times where, like out of turn 6 into turn 7, everybody else is getting to wide open throttle, and he's not even getting to wide open. Just little things like that where he doesn't push the car beyond what it needs to be pushed." End quote. And then Connor Zilisch described what happens as the fuel load drops and the tire wear accumulates across a long green flag run. Whenever people say he's toying with people, it might not even be on purpose, but he just is able to save his stuff and maintain the lead. And then when he wants to go, he can go. That is the real weapon. Not outright one-lap pace. Tire preservation that turns into a pace advantage when everyone else's rear tires are already cooked. Kyle Larson, who is widely regarded as the most naturally gifted driver in the NASCAR Cup field, was asked about this directly at Sonoma Raceway. His answer was unambiguous. "You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like there's zero chance I can learn how to do that. And even if I did, like there's zero chance that I can have it be better than what I'm probably doing with left foot braking. So yeah, he's just so good." Denny Hamlin is a driver who was actually taught the heel and toe style earlier in his career. He won at Mexico City years ago using right foot braking, but after 2 decades of left foot braking embedded in his muscle memory, he said on his Actions Detrimental podcast that going back is not an option. He also expressed serious doubt that any young American coming up through the lower series ranks is going to voluntarily commit to learning it and sticking with it at the level required. The garage has the data. The footwell camera footage exists. Dale Earnhardt Jr. explained the mechanics on a widely distributed podcast, and still, not one driver in the Cup field has been able to make it work under race conditions. Christopher Bell told NBC Sports back in 2023, "I wouldn't even know where to begin. It's definitely something that would take a long time to master and probably be an easy way to make a mistake." Ryan Blaney was honest about the desire, but equally honest about the barrier. "If I had the time, I would definitely love to do it. If I could go run a Cup car every single day, that's all I would work on." But limited practice time and a blanket ban on open testing make that kind of dedicated repetition impossible inside NASCAR. Austin Cindric went further than anyone. He traveled to Adelaide, Australia to run a Supercars wildcard race specifically to practice the technique in a car where it is mechanically mandatory. He came back to NASCAR and still cannot execute it reliably under race pressure. Ross Chastain, who is Shane Van Gisbergen's own teammate at Trackhouse Racing and has access to more direct data and observation than anyone else in the paddock, said it plainly. "My feet are on the wrong pedals when I do it his way. I've learned my way, and, at 33, it's tough. I can do it intentionally for like a corner or 3, and then I get to the next corner, the next lap, and I go back to my way. It's just muscle memory. Dale Earnhardt Jr. summarized the entire situation with a line that should settle the debate. This is a technique that you need to be doing from the day that you start driving race cars. It is not a skill that can be retrofitted into a driver who has spent a decade or more building their braking technique in the opposite direction. The numbers that this advantage has produced are historically significant. In 2025, Shane van Gisbergen won 5 of 6 road course races on the schedule: Charlotte Roval, Watkins Glen, Mexico City, Sonoma, and Chicago. That run moved him to equal third on the all-time NASCAR road course wins list. His average running position on road and street courses across 2025 was 3.34. The next closest driver in that metric was Christopher Bell at 10.09. In 2026, he won at Watkins Glen by 7.288 seconds. He won the Chicago pole position by 0.47 seconds, a margin larger than the gap from second place all the way back to 8th on the starting grid. His career road course win rate in the NASCAR Cup Series stands at 33%, more than double the rate of Kyle Larson and more than double the career rate of Marcos Ambrose, who is widely regarded as one of the finest road course specialists in NASCAR history. Denny Hamlin assessed the historical scale of it directly. Has there been someone with this big of an advantage on road courses? I don't think so. You certainly would think SVG, relative to the field, has got a bigger gap than anybody in history. End quote. For the first 2 years, the American media operated on a convenient narrative. Chicago 2023 was a fluke. Rain, chaos, wrong place, right time. Sonoma was a flash. Watkins Glen was the weather again. Then 2025 happened, and that narrative collapsed entirely. But the conversation that is not getting enough attention is what this technique could do on short ovals. Martinsville, Richmond, Phoenix in the playoff round. These are tracks where corner entry is the entire discipline, where tire management across a long green flag run separates the winner from the field, and where the driver who can rotate the car mechanically without overheating the right rear wins races. The Bathurst approach: protect the tires, rotate the car with the drivetrain, save the rear rubber, and attack on the restart, is not a road course skill exclusively. It is a racecraft skill, and it travels. Shane van Gisbergen recorded his first top 10 finish on an oval at Kansas in 2025 and backed it up the following weekend with a Roval win. In 2026, he finished 11th at both Phoenix and Martinsville, just outside the top 10, and the progression is measurable. Kyle Larson acknowledged it. If Shane van Gisbergen figures out the ovals, the rest of the field has a serious problem. Which brings the conversation to the most significant undercurrent running through the NASCAR Cup garage right now. Behind closed doors, there are conversations happening about whether Shane van Gisbergen's clutch usage on the next generation car is technically within the spirit of the rulebook. The clutch pedal in this generation of car was never designed to function as a performance tool. It was engineered to launch the car off pit road and then sit dormant. Could NASCAR mandate clutch pedal lockouts after launch, a measure that some sports car series have already implemented? It sounds extreme, but it has been whispered, and if Shane van Gisbergen wins at Phoenix in the championship round using a technique that not one other driver in the field can replicate, the political pressure to intervene and level the playing field will be significant. What the sport is watching right now is a 36-year-old from Auckland, a 3-time Bathurst 1000 winner and 3-time Supercars champion, walking into the most American motorsport on the planet and rewriting the technique manual one corner at a time. He drives the number 97 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing. He says people are overthinking it. He is lying, politely, the way Kiwis do. Joey Logano cannot copy him. Austin Cindric flew to another continent and came back, unable to copy him. Ross Chastain's own feet will not cooperate. Denny Hamlin does not believe any young American coming through the ranks is going to bother learning it. Shane van Gisbergen has, for the foreseeable future, an advantage that NASCAR handed him by accident the day they built a next-generation car with a clutch pedal that nobody else in the garage knows how to use. If you think Shane van Gisbergen wins on a proper oval this year, not a roval, a real oval, Phoenix, Martinsville, Richmond. Drop a Kiwi in the comments and tell us which track it happens on. Subscribe to stay in the loop, because next week we are breaking down the one corner at Sonoma, where Shane Van Gisbergen's data shows he is losing 0.2 to Connor Zilisch, and what that means for the 2026 title fight.